As we are now nearly halfway through the 2025 college football season, I can't believe I'm saying that, we still have 20 undefeated teams left. Some of them came out of nowhere, and others were expected to be here. In today's video, we're going to start up my annual series where we rank the undefeated teams left in college football. For clarification, this is based off of resume and not based on power rankings, as people always complain about that down in the comment section below. But before we can rank teams, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's go ahead and get started and rank all 20 undefeated teams left in college football. But before we can do that, let's hear a word from today's sponsor. I want to introduce you to the sponsor of today's video, Grunes. When it comes to the fall season, there are two flavors that everybody thinks of, pumpkin and apple. Luckily, Grunes decided to make the best tasting apple gummy I have ever had. Grunes are a convenient, comprehensive formula packed into a snack pack a day. It is not a multivitamin, a greens gummy, or a prebiotic. It's actually all of those things combined. And not only is it a fraction of the price, but it also tastes great. What is great is that you get to eat a full pack because you can't fit the amount of nutrients they have into just one gummy. Grunes have 20 plus vitamins and minerals and 60 total ingredients, which include nutrient-dense and whole foods like kale, spinach, and even blueberries. Probably wondering is why would I choose Grunes? Well, for one, it's 100% vitamins and minerals, and it's put at a safe and effective amount. Secondly, the vitamins and minerals actually absorb into your body, which will then help you with things like energy, immunity, gut health, and even recovery. I will also admit I was skeptical at first that something that was green and gummy would actually taste good, but it was legit awesome, and it tasted a lot like a green apple Jolly Rancher. And finally, since you are a viewer of the Scott Fisher channel, you can get up to 52% off of your order with Grunes. And if you're going to eat something that is sweet, you might as well go for something that will actually help your body out and is actually good for you. So go ahead and shop Grunes. And if you want the green apple flavor, it's limited edition, so you're going to have to go ahead and order it right now. Again, you can save 52% off with my code, and shout out to Grunes for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so we first have Tier 1, which are the teams that only have one decent win on their resume. There are 8 of them, and coming in at number 20 is the Navy Midshipmen. They had an impressive season last year, and they returned one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the country in Blake Horvath, and so far they are off to a 4-0 start. They beat VMI in Week 1, 52-7, UAB 38-24 in Week 2, and they went on the road and got their best win of the season, a 42-23 victory over Tulsa. They then took a week off. For this past weekend, they decided to beat Rice. So far, Navy hasn't really beat anybody with a pulse, but they are still undefeated. Only 20 teams can say that, but for now they come in at dead last. One of the crazier stories of the 2025 season so far is the rise of North Texas football. After losing some of their top players to the transfer portal, including quarterback Chandler Morris to Virginia, the Mean Green have improved from last year. Drew Mestemaker has been a surprise at quarterback, and so far they've beaten Lamar, Western Michigan, Washington State, Army, and South Alabama. That game against Washington State was the most impressive as they won 59-10. I mean, Washington State was pretty good a year ago, and they were a Power 4 school, so this definitely was not expected. North Texas still has a ways to go, but we will find out how good they are in 2 weeks as they face off against USF. If they can beat the Bulls, then they should be favored in every game the rest of the season, and they have an outside chance at making the college football playoff. Ranked ahead of the Mean Green, we have another Group of 5 team in the UNLV Runnin' Rebels. UNLV had a good season last year, and despite losing head coach Barry Odom to Purdue, they have picked up where they left off with former Florida coach Dan Mullen. Mullen and the team of Misfit Toys have gotten off to a great start as they're currently 4-0 with wins over Idaho State, Sam Houston State, Miami of Ohio, and UCLA. Obviously, UCLA is their best win on their resume, and while the Bruins might be the worst Power 4 team, it's still good for a Group of 5 team to beat a Power 4 team, and just like North Texas, they have an outside shot at the college football playoff, and their toughest game will be a road matchup against Boise State. We'll see how the Rebels continue to play, but for now they're ranked at number 18. Up next, we have our first Power 4 team, and that is the Louisville Cardinals. Jeff Brom has done a tremendous job in Louisville since he took the job, and this year they're off to a good start. They beat Eastern Kentucky 51-17, then beat James Madison 28-14, and then after a week off, they would beat Bowling Green 40-17. Obviously, none of those wins are all that impressive, but this past weekend, they ended up starting out 1-0 in conference play as they went on the road and beat Pittsburgh. At one point, they were getting shut out 17-0, so this was a big game for them. Miller Moss is getting better and better, and so far they have one win over a Power 4 team, and also that James Madison win isn't all that bad either. We'll find out a lot about Louisville this upcoming Saturday, as they will play against Virginia before then traveling on the road to Miami. Louisville will have its work cut out for them if they want to make the college football playoff, but with games against Cal, Virginia Tech, Kentucky, and Boston College, the schedule isn't impossible, and they could definitely come out of nowhere and start shocking some people soon. But they got to get through these next 2 weeks first. And our final Group of 5 team on the list is the Memphis Tigers. Ryan Silverfield has done a good job at building up the program, but after losing star quarterback Seth Hennigan to the NFL, some thought they would drop off. Quarterback transfer Brendan Lewis has come in and done a really good job and has led them to 5 victories. They beat Chattanooga 45-10 in Week 1, Georgia State 38-16 in Week 2, and then Troy 28-7 in Week 3. They were favored in all 3 of those games, so there was no reason to pick against them, but they finally got their premier win as they knocked off Arkansas at home. They won that game 32-31 in a thriller, and this is one of the reasons why Sam Pittman was fired. Again, Arkansas may not be the best team in the world, but getting a victory over a Power 4 team is huge for the resume, and then this past weekend, they killed Florida Atlantic on the road, so they are 5-0. I think personally Memphis is in the driver's seat for the college football playoff, but they'll have to survive games against USF, Tulane, and Navy if they want to get there. I think they should be favored in every matchup for the rest of the season, and I hope Memphis gets in. One of the more underrated jobs of the 2025 season so far is what Mike Locksley has done at Maryland. The Terps always get off to a decent start in September, and they have followed suit this year. After beating Florida Atlantic 39-7 in Week 1, they took care of business against Northern Illinois and against Towson. They'd end up getting their most impressive victory 2 weeks ago as they would go into Camp Randall and beat the Badgers 27-10. No matter what you have to say about Wisconsin, it is still difficult to go into that stadium and win, so that was impressive. True freshman quarterback Malik Washington has been great, Shalik Knotts has been an incredible receiver, and Maryland just seems to be gelling. For the rest of the season, their schedule is not impossible, as besides games against Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan, I think they should be favored in the rest of their matchups. Maryland could be last year's Indiana, who makes a run at the college football playoff, but I still think that's a little bit far-fetched. So far, they're off to a good start and have one good resume win against Wisconsin. Another surprise in college football this year has been the rise of the Houston Cougars. Last season, it looked like Willie Fritz was in over his head, but now in 2025, the Cougars have been really good. They went out and got a really good transfer quarterback in Connor Weigman from Texas A&M, and Tanner Koziol from Ball State has been one of the more underrated tight ends in all of college football. In Week 1, they destroyed Stephen F. Austin 27-0, before then going on the road and beating Rice 35-9. They got their most impressive victory of the season on September 12th against Colorado, as they'd win that game at home 36-20. This past weekend, they ended up going on the road to Corvallis, as they would knock off Oregon State 27-24 in overtime. Yeah, Oregon State's not a Power 4 team anymore, but it's still a decent win. They were also getting beat pretty badly at one point, so for them to come back and win this game was huge for them and showed that they weren't a pretender and that they definitely had some fight to them. I don't think Houston will win the Big 12 by any means, but we will find out a lot this upcoming weekend as they will face off with number 11 Texas Tech. If they can knock off the Red Raiders at home, then they might be legit and really worth looking at. Speaking of Texas Tech, they're the next team on the list. It's no secret the Red Raiders have had a ton of money poured into the program, and this year they're off to a great start. They're currently ranked at number 11 in the country, and are also 4-0. They put up 67 points against Arkansas Pine Bluff, 62 points against Kent State, and then also beat Oregon State 45-14. Baron Morton has been incredible at the quarterback position, but he is also dealing with an injury. Texas Tech will face off with the Cougars this upcoming weekend before games against Kansas, Arizona State, Oklahoma State, and K-State. As of right now, their schedule only includes 2 ranked teams, and then they also get UCF and West Virginia, so there's a real chance that Texas Tech can make it to the college football playoff if they can just survive against Houston, Arizona State, and BYU. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but for now, Texas Tech is off to a good start. To start out Tier 2, let's talk about the BYU Cougars. After having a breakout season in 2024, many thought BYU would be decent this year, but so far they are once again off to an undefeated start. After beating Portland State 69-0, they came back home and beat Stanford 27-3. Again, that win doesn't really mean that much, but it's still over another Power 4 team. After that, they go on the road to play against East Carolina, and in what was a trap game, they would survive 34-13. This past weekend, they got their best win on the resume as they go on the road to Colorado and won that game 24-21. This was pretty impressive, and while BYU I don't think has the greatest resume in the world, they've done exactly what is expected of them. They've won 2 road games, beat a Power 4 team, and then blitzed an FCS school. True freshman Bear Bachmeier has been really solid, and BYU once again could make a run at the Big 12 title, thus meaning they have a chance at the college football playoff. Games against Texas Tech, Utah, and Iowa State will be difficult. We will see where they end up. Our next SEC school will be the Vanderbilt Commodores. Nobody ever thought that Vanderbilt would be a good team, but currently they're 5-0 and ranked number 16 in the nation. Led by Diego Pavia at quarterback, he's led them to 5 straight wins as they beat Charleston Southern 45-3, beat Virginia Tech 44-20, and then also beat South Carolina 31-7. They also put up 70 points in a win over Georgia State, and also had 55 points in a win over Utah State. Sure, 3 of these teams don't have a pulse, but having 2 road victories, including one over a top 15 South Carolina team, he also helped get Brent Pry fired, and for Vanderbilt standards, they are doing an incredible job. Alabama will have everything coming for them this upcoming Saturday in a revenge game, and then the schedule continues to get more difficult as they'll face 3 more straight ranked teams in LSU, Mizzou, and Texas, and they also still have Auburn, Kentucky, and Tennessee. If Vanderbilt finishes with more than 7 wins, I will be completely shocked, but just getting back to a bowl game would be quite impressive for them. Right in front of the BYU Cougars are my Missouri Tigers. They're currently ranked number 19 in the country, and Mizzou is 5-0. After losing a lot of players to the NFL, Mizzou decided to reload through the portal as they grabbed Bo Prabula, Ahmad Hardy, and Kevin Coleman Jr. So far, it has absolutely worked as they killed Central Arkansas 61-6 in Week 1 before beating Kansas in the Border War game in Week 2 in what was also a thrilling game. Since then, they've beaten Louisiana, UMass, and South Carolina. Obviously, the most impressive victory on the sheet is South Carolina so far, as they won that game 29-20. Bo Prabula has been a really good quarterback. They have a group of 3 running backs that are all solid, and then Kevin Coleman Jr. and Marquise Johnson have been incredible as receivers. Mizzou's schedule will pick up towards the end of the season, as they have 4 ranked teams left on the schedule and also have to play Mississippi State and Auburn. It looks a little bit better now than it did in the preseason, but Mizzou has a chance at the college football playoff. We'll find out a lot about them when they face off with number 10 Bama on October 11th. Ranked in front of the Missouri Tigers is another SEC school in the Oklahoma Sooners. Like Mizzou, Oklahoma went out into the portal and got some key players as they got John Mateer from Washington State and Jaden Ott from Cal. It has absolutely worked for them so far as they beat Illinois State 35-3 in Week 1 before knocking off number 15 Michigan 24-13 in Week 2. That was a very impressive win for them, and then they went on the road and beat Temple. That was supposed to happen, but then 2 weeks ago, they ended up beating number 22 Auburn at home, had a crazy amount of sacks, and then got their second ranked win. The Sooners are currently 4-0 and are ranked number 5 in the nation. John Mateer is dealing with an injury, but hopefully he will be back soon. They'll face off against Kent State this weekend, so this is a good chance for Michael Hawkins to get more comfortable, as that game will be over in the first quarter, before they then face off with Texas. Like Mizzou, Oklahoma has a ridiculous schedule to end the season, as 6 of their last 7 games are against ranked opponents, and then the other one is a road game against South Carolina. I want to say Oklahoma will make the playoff, but man, it's a tough schedule. In front of the Sooners, we have the Texas A&M Aggies. They are currently 4-0 and ranked number 6 in the country. When they went out and got Mike Elko from Duke, I thought he'd be able to turn around the Aggies program, and that is exactly what he has done so far. It seems Marcel Reed has taken the next step in 2025, and their 2 receiver transfers in Kevin Concepcion and Mario Craver have been nothing short of incredible for them. They beat UTSA 42-24 in Week 1 before beating Utah State 44-22 in Week 2. Their most impressive victory obviously comes on the road in Week 3, as they went into South Bend and knocked off number 8 Notre Dame. The last couple minutes were crazy, as Tyler Buckner botched a snap and they missed the extra point. They then returned a kick for a touchdown, but it was called back because of a hold, but then the same player who had a hold caught a touchdown on 4th down and won them the game 41-40. It was definitely a weird turn of events, but A&M has one of the most impressive victories of the season so far. They ended up beating Auburn this past weekend 16-10. I feel bad for Auburn because they keep losing these close games, but A&M is still undefeated, and now they get somewhat of a break as they play 3 straight teams that are not ranked. That's pretty much unheard of in the SEC, but games against Mizzou, LSU, South Carolina, and Texas will be difficult. But I honestly think A&M has a decent chance at making it to this year's playoff. In front of the Aggies, I have the Indiana Hoosiers. I know some people will think I'm biased because I'm an IU fan, but Indiana has been very impressive this season. They beat Old Dominion in Week 1, destroyed Kennesaw State in Week 2, and then shut out Indiana State 73-0 in Week 3. Okay, yeah, those first 3 games are not great, but in Week 4 they finally turned it on. No matter what people have to say about Illinois, they were a top 10 team when they came to Bloomington, and Indiana had one of the biggest victories over a top 10 team in college football history. They won this game 63-10, and they honestly could have scored more. This past week, they then went on the road to play against Iowa, and they won that game 20-15 after a late Elijah Surratt touchdown and a weird Fernando Mendoza safety. People are going to complain about Indiana not playing the greatest schedule in the world, but they put up 63 points against a top 10 team, and then also beat Iowa, who notoriously has a great defense, and it is really hard to win in Kinnick Stadium. People will find any excuse to discredit Indiana, but they are now up to 5-0 and number 8 in the nation. They'll face off with Oregon in 2 weeks, and if they can somehow win that game, this will truly break college football. Besides that, their biggest test will be against Penn State and maybe Maryland, but Indiana once again has a shot at making the college football playoff, and we'll see if Fernando Mendoza can get them there. And the final team in Tier 2 will be the Ohio State Buckeyes. They're obviously ranked number 1 in the nation, and are currently off to a 4-0 start. They had one of the best wins of the season so far, as they knocked off number 1 Texas 14-7 in Week 1, and then since then, it's been pretty easy for them. They destroyed Grambling State 70-0 in Week 2, beat honestly one of the best Group of 5 teams in the country in Ohio 37-9, then after a week off, went on the road to Washington and won 24-6. A lot of people might discredit this one as well, but Washington had a crazy home streak, and the Huskies really aren't all that bad. The offense still seems to be a little bit limited for Ohio State, but I'm pretty sure Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith will eventually get it all figured out. And they've got a couple big games coming up, including a road trip to Illinois, and then a home game against Penn State. We'll see how they do, but Ohio State is on track to making the college football playoff, winning the Big Ten championship, and they have a real shot at making a deep run as well. And finally, for Tier 3, we have the teams that have 3 resume wins. There are only 5 left, and coming in at number 5, we have the Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket. When Brent Key was the interim head coach a couple of years ago, I knew he was eventually going to be made the head man, and he's done a tremendous job at making them a good program and a really tough team to beat. They proved that in Week 1 against Colorado, as Haynes King had a late touchdown, and they won 27-20. They then destroyed Gardner-Webb 59-12 before beating number 12 Clemson 24-21. That victory looked a lot more impressive at the time than it does now, but it still counts. They also beat Temple, and then this past weekend beat Wake Forest 30-29 in overtime. Sure, maybe the game shouldn't have been that close, but they ended up gritting it out and won when it mattered, and made a big stop on that 2-point conversion. Currently, Georgia Tech is 5-0, ranked number 17 in the nation, and have a real chance at the college football playoff. The toughest game remaining on their schedule is against number 12 Georgia, and that could be Georgia Tech's biggest game in a long time, and I really do think they have a good shot at making it to the ACC title, thus having a good chance at the playoff. At number 4, we have the Iowa State Cyclones. They're currently 5-0 and ranked number 14 in the nation, and Rocco Beck and Matt Campbell have things rolling. In Week 0, they beat number 17 Kansas State 24-21 and converted a late 4th down, and that gave them a huge victory in Ireland. They then destroyed South Dakota 55-7 before beating Iowa 16-13. They survived a road game against Arkansas State, which was sort of a trap matchup. Then this past weekend, they blitzed an undefeated Arizona team 39-14. Sure, none of those victories are all that crazy, but Iowa State has 3 solid wins over Power 4 teams, and only 5 total schools can even say that. Iowa State right now is in the driver's seat for the Big 12 in my opinion, and games against BYU, Arizona State, and TCU are going to be thrilling, but if there's ever a year for Matt Campbell to get them over the hump, it seems like it's 2025. At number 3, we have one of the shockers of the year in the Ole Miss Rebels. I was honestly a skeptic of Ole Miss going into this season, as I thought they'd fall off a bit, but their transfer portal haul has been incredible. They grabbed Trinidad Chambliss from Ferris State, got Kewan Lacey from Mizzou, and Harrison Wallace III came from Penn State. All of those guys have panned out, which has led them to 5 wins. They beat Georgia State 63-7, went on the road and beat Kentucky 30-23, then beat Arkansas 41-35, Tulane 45-10, and then this past weekend, number 4 LSU 24-19. One of the craziest parts about this season is going into the year, Austin Simmons was their starting quarterback, but once he got injured, it led the way for Trinidad Chambliss to come in. He might have the best story in all of college football this year, and he's been both a threat through the air and with his legs, and he's a dark horse Heisman contender right now. With him at quarterback, Ole Miss seems to be in a good spot, and to finish the season, it's not horrible. They only have 2 ranked teams left on the schedule, and Ole Miss, I think, has a real shot at the playoff as well. The battle for number 1 was quite difficult, but ultimately I decided to put Miami at number 2. Going into the offseason, Miami needed to make some changes, as the defense needed to get a lot better. They ended up bringing in Carson Beck from Georgia, and he's been really good for them. They knocked off number 6 Notre Dame in Week 1, as they won that game 27-24. They then beat Bethune-Cookman 45-3 before knocking off an undefeated USF team who was number 18 in the nation. That was an impressive early season victory for them as they put up 49 points against the Bulls. They then knocked off Florida 26-7, and so far, Miami has 3 really good wins. The Canes scheduled really well this year, but we'll find out a lot in their next 2 games, as honestly, I think games against Florida State and Louisville are the 2 hardest remaining on their schedule. If they can get through that, then I think there's a really good chance that Miami goes undefeated, and in my opinion, they're definitely probably going to win the ACC and get to the college football playoff, which would be huge for Mario Cristobal. And finally at number 1, we have the Oregon Ducks. They've had one of the more unique schedules this year as they've played 5 actual good opponents. In week 1, they played against Montana State, who's historically a top 3 FCS program, and they won that game 59-13. They then absolutely destroyed Oklahoma State 69-3 in week 2, beat Northwestern 34-14, and then beat Oregon State 41-7. They played 4 decent teams in their first 4 games, but they finally got the biggest win of the season so far as they knocked off number 3 Penn State. Not only was it on the road, but it was in the whiteout game. In one of the best games of the season so far, Oregon ended up letting Penn State come back, but they would win in overtime by way of a late Dylan Thieneman interception. It was absolutely incredible, and the staff did a great job preparing them for that game, and Oregon's ranked number 2 in the nation in the polls, but I personally had them at number 1 in the ranking of the undefeated. Their next game will come against number 8 Indiana, and then besides that, the only game that's really worth watching in my opinion will probably be the USC game, but Oregon is on pace to getting back to the playoff and having a really good season. But what do you guys think? What did I get right and wrong? Where would you have certain teams ranked? And what topic should I do next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.